Maybe, John, talk about shooting the pilot and sort of creating this dystopia.
Well, we were, you know, there was a lot to figure out in the beginning, and that's why you have a little bit more time and resources to do a pilot, because, you know, not only are we assembling the cast, but collectively we're trying to figure out how to make all of it work, and what's the tone of the piece going to be, what's the look, and then you're constantly having conversations about marketing because they're trying to set things up and get ready because of the very tight time frame. And so half the time you're kind of, you find yourself explaining things that you haven't done yet, and that's kind of where you come up with a lot of ideas. And then there's a lot of discovery through the process of prepping the show and rehearsing it and working with the actors, and then finally in the editing room, you kind of cull it down to something, and that's when everybody, again, has a voice in it, both, you know, the studio, the network, producers, and we take what the actors have done. And so how do you strike that balance of how do you make it emotionally resonant? How do you make it relatable through the eyes of the family, as these guys have explained to you, and still reveal enough, ladle out enough of the exposition to let people, not confuse people, and get them excited? How to justify that it's a world run by sword, you know, where the sword rules? Because how do you justify not having those guns on the street? Because then it changes it immediately to something different. As soon as technology replaces swords very quickly, once there are a lot of high-tech arms around. And what is the science behind what the world would really look like? What's the generation gap? How is somebody like Charlie going to be different than somebody like Monroe? You know, people who lived through it, who formed their identity before the blackout, and how is that generation gap expressed? So that's the fun part for me. I love when it's just virgin snow and you get to make your tracks through it, and you get to assemble this great cast, and you get to work with great people. JJ and I have been looking to work together for a long time, and all of his team with Brian and everybody at Bad Robot. To be able to play in that Willy Wonka's chocolate factory that they have there in Santa Monica was one, you know, great, from just being a guy who gets to go to the parties there to the guy who actually gets to, you know, drink the chocolate milk out of the river. Oh. You know, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. So, and then see how Eric sort of, you know, learn about television through watching Eric, who had been a showrunner and a creator and had a lot of boots on the ground hours and understood the problems before they came. So in building it out, I got the best seat in the house to be part of this family, but also be able to kind of watch it sort of fly on its own too. So it's been, that's why I'm here, and that's, I think, why we're all here, is like we really love what we've been able to, the experience of doing it as much as, and it's nice that people are watching it too. That's clearly a big part of it. But for us, it's also quality of life. You know, this group of people really likes each other, and everybody's growing and learning from working with one another.
And thank you for letting us know what JJ does with all that syndication money. So, we have...